This is fun.
I have all the ADD toys. I mean, the hand kaleidoscope.
This is great. I love
Yeah.
CMYK.
Yeah.
I love it. I got Noah recently a hand clicker. So you can just... Oh, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
It's really
Right.
dangerous. I mean, just because you're totally... what is it, ASMR? Is that what they call it? When the sound is just so soothing.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
I don't know. We probably lived in the era of undiagnosed ADHD. I find I have to mess with stuff.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but we just learned how to deal with it.
Yeah. Well, he's just got diagnosed, and it's really cool because you get a sense for, oh, cool, this thing that I didn't understand, now I understand it, and I can kind of follow the wave. Which is fun, but I've also had to reckon with the fact that it's apparently very genetic. So I'm looking at myself going, oh, okay. And then I look at my dad and I don't know. It's kind of fun. Whatever.
Yeah, we get stuff done.
We get stuff done.
Yeah.
We have a good time. Life's a little more fun.
Right. Wormholes or rabbit holes of Wikipedia.
Basically. Yeah. I'm just like a miner with my flashlight on all the time. Yeah, exactly. Who was the Pope in 1600? I'm going to go find out his middle name.
Right. That was after the Thodian Walls.
Was it?
And Mahmud II, overcame the Ottoman
Forgot about
Turks.
that one.
It's a touchy subject.
Oh, fun. This is good.
Yeah. So, you're kind of a student of everything, right? I feel like you wanted to talk about some data stuff you've been running, and I want to hear about it.
Yeah. Back to the ADD conversation of wanting to know everything.
Yeah. Because you've been I like what you said, AI's coming. Fuck it. Let's just go for, go for being a disruptor.
Yeah.
And, are you running for county?
No,
commission?
not this time anyway.
Not this time. You did.
Know.
Okay.
No news to announce.
Okay. I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Because you kind of were like, hey, I would like to come on.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. But you also had some data stuff.
No, I'm not running. Yeah, who knows? That was fun.
And you said you do a lot of podcasts. What kind of podcasts do you do?
I do, I do a lot of, so professionally, I do a lot of public speaking and a lot of consulting in the AI software design, software development space. And for some reason, people like to have me on and talk about things I think are interesting. And so, so I've gotten to travel quite a bit, and it's really fun. I mean, I'm happy to talk about it a little bit more. It's definitely around the AI stuff is pretty interesting.
What do you think AI for Grand County? It's just in everything. You Google search now. Yeah. Does it hey, this is what you do, and locally, I'm like, what happens?
It's a technology that it manifests in a lot of different ways. The AI that lets you create digital fakes of women and undress them, not so good. Maybe that's not something we need to have in society. But what it is really, really good at is pattern recognition. And that's, helpful in a number of ways. In terms of for Grand County, I think one of the biggest things that I'm very curious about is this word transparency and what it means for people. And really what it tends to mean is more accessibility. Because we're actually you were talking to Maggie about this too. We're very transparent as a community, as a state.
Everything's written down on a boring website. And it's horrible.
It's so hard to find.
Yeah.
It's so hard to find. So, I just
is that a feature or a bug? Probably neither. It's just is what it is. It's
well-intentioned people not caring enough to fix the problems.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
But for example, I did a big grandma poll of some stuff I was curious about, and I used Claude to reformat some stuff that wasn't easy to read, and just looked for hey, show me everything that's talking about this, and then show me things that are talking about this, and tell me what else it's talking about, and what context is it being talked about, and okay, cool. Now go and pull all of the county agendas that have mentioned this, and what documents. So there's a lot of retrieval stuff that seems kind of rudimentary and boring, but is actually so powerful.
I'm using it kind of roughly the same way, and it's go fetch me, every quote somebody said. Yeah, which is so powerful.
It's incredibly powerful, and so that's the one of just the retrieval based. It's also very good at repeating patterns, which is why it's decent at generation, especially if you train it on stuff. So you can train it on, how you speak, or you can train it to, when you're looking at this data set, do this, or when you're doing this, do this other thing, and you can give it skills. And basically, the word that's being used in the industry is to orchestrate it. And I think what's interesting there, putting aside all the because there are real ethical concerns about compute and power and water and all of that, but just as far as the technology goes, first of all, the technology itself isn't new. AI, actually, this is my Wikipedia dives. AI actually, the word traces back to the 1950s. And you had a big gathering at Dartmouth in 54, which was intentionally multidimensional, a lot of people from different areas of science and mathematics. And they came up with this word because it was a word that nobody could claim. So no single discipline could claim it. And, now all this artificial intelligence and AGI and it's just a bunch of hot air. It's not, but it's a lot of marketing. But the technology of this pattern recognition and even some of the natural language stuff has been around for MIT had a working bot called ELIZA in the 60s. What's happened now is, one, the ability to process vast amounts of data in very quick time or derive the tokens from that, the patterns essentially at a micro level. That technology showed up. And then the ability to translate that to spoken language and infer intent or information and gather. So that's kind of been this little Velcro moment that we're in right now. But we've been on this path for a while. So that's the second one. And then you get to the more kind of frightening generative stuff. But anyway, you asked about AI in Grand County.
You've been applying this locally.
Yeah.
And, what have you been finding?
I know. I guess I did text you. I've been texting everyone oh my gosh. This whole timed entry thing and the $60,000 that we spent on this report, I've got this sort of, I don't know. I like it. It's probably an obnoxious tendency to want to know everything about something. If I don't know the answer, I don't feel comfortable commenting until I, know. And so I basically was all right, well then I'm just going to go and run the regression myself. You have the Park Service who did some top line analysis, very credible. I was able to replicate their results with a different method and got the same results in terms of top line economic impacts. And Matt Hancock had his white paper, which I also was able to reproduce because they looked at two fundamentally different things. So through my own regression analysis, which is basically here's a line of data, what explains this line better than other things, essentially. It's a hypersimplification.
I always wondered what that meant. Yeah, I'm curious about things, but I'm just too dumb and lazy to follow it. So you have this data. And then you're why did it, why is it, and there's a lot of causation doesn't equal correlation,
That's it though.
Yeah.
That's it.
Ice cream and murders,
Yeah.
What is it? So AI is able to dig through this, and you're able to dig through this?
Well, so I past life, I studied economics and did a lot of econometrics and stuff, which is statistics in this economic realm. So anyway, I was just more to the point, I was looking at trying to figure out who's right, and it turns out they're both right, but also both a little bit wrong. And that's really important. And here's what I found. When Matt ran his analysis and had his white paper, he only looked at April 2022 and the effect from there, and found a very big effect. There is a very big effect. We saw a decrease in visitation that manifested in a pretty big drop in, not overall, but a marginal drop over time that led to a pretty big drop in
starting
TRT.
From April 22.
But that's the key. If you actually look at the data, and there's two things that I looked at that are different from what both of those groups did. So the first is I controlled for supply. So what's happened in Grand County is we have continued to build. We have built year over year over year hundreds of new condos, hotels, rooms, and brought them online.
Right.
And so if you look at the actual top line numbers, revenue is going up, taxes, everything is going up. And so by controlling for supply, and this is what the MPS didn't do, you actually can see the marginal impacts of what happened between 2021 and 2022. And there's a really big drop.
So marginal impacts, what's that mean?
The difference. So like 2021, well, here, man, I'm like right into it. But so 2019 was kind of the peak of Arch's visitation.
Okay.
And in 2017, there was all these conversations starting. Is it getting too busy? Do we need some sort of permit system? 2019, that's when the lodging moratorium goes in. It's also when talks begin in earnest about this permit system. And the permit system itself was intended to model a busy day in 2019. It's essentially the upper bound of the healthy capacity of Arches National Park in terms of parking and ecological impacts and so on. And so if things had just continued from there, who knows where we'd be right now, but we probably would have hit a ceiling. Except then COVID happened, and then 2021 happened, and we didn't just hit the ceiling, but we blew past it. And so if you look at the actual numbers in 2021, it felt like it was just this extremely intense year. But during the summer months, during the peak months from April to October, actual Arches visitation was like 102.3% of 2019. It was basically the same because the park closed the gate and it pushed people out into Canyonlands and to other parks. But then what happened is people started showing up in the shoulder seasons. And so there was this massive spike. January was like 230% of normal between 2022 and 2023. And the same thing happened at all flagship parks across the National Park Service, and it's still the case today. If you look at actual visitation rates, there is now this saddle curve, or inverted saddle curve, where we've seen a lot of visitation out that way.
So the shoulder season's filling up.
So the shoulder season filled up. But then what happened, so 2021 was this huge peak, and then we had a correction down to 2022. And that is when timed entry went into effect. And so the question is, from that peak in 2021 to 2022, and then also the fact that 2019 and 2022, they were a little off, how much of that is explained by all the stuff that happened post timed entry versus everything else? And so that's what I've been trying to get at. And so, and then what does that mean for, okay, to the extent there was an effect, and there was, how was that digested by our economy? And I'll just give you like the top line stuff. And I'm still trying to like exactly get to the number, but I think I've been able to isolate the timed entry effect is about, on the low end it's 7%, on the high end, sorry, not 7%, that's of the overall gap.
What?
No, sorry, it's about 25% of the gap between how many people would have shown up without all the post-COVID effects, and then how many people didn't show up from timed entry. So basically, after COVID, people went back to work, return to work programs started, we had inflation, we didn't have international visitation, like things were weird still. They were screwy. And so you had
a lot of people go remote working.
We had a lot of people go work, so there was like a lot of different things happening at once. And so so there was a change in visitation. About 75% of that change was just change that happened naturally because stuff was weird, because people heard about overcrowding and they didn't want to come back in the high season, so they showed up in October or November instead, or March instead. You had the lack of international visitation and the hesitancy in some places of traveling, and different political factions were more or less willing to travel. And so there was just this like whole mess of stuff. And then you had the timed entry effect. And the timed entry effect manifested in two ways, and you can see this in the actual months within the timed entry program. So 100% permits sold out in April, 100% of permits sold out in June, most permits sold out in May. Actual permit sales in July and August were like 70%. You had a no-show rate, so people got a permit and then didn't show up. So basically, like, we've got two things going on here. We can't just say that the system was so hard that nobody could get a permit, or it's such a pain in the ass, and so people didn't want to use it, because you actually had 100% of permits sell out. In fact, over-allocated permits, because they over-allocated because of that no-show rate. And then you also have, hey, people still didn't show up even when that friction was, or the cap was there, so like what was going on? Anyway, I don't want to go I've been trying to figure out how to like write this up, and every time I do, I'm like, man, is that right? And I go a little deeper. But I think the point is not like, what is the number? It's that going back to what's happened up to this point. So Matt Hancock, he came out to the commission and he said, look, in timed entry, that was in spring of 2022, and then all this bad stuff happened. So all this bad stuff happened because of timed entry, and that's just not true. And if you actually run the full model between looking at like everything, the trend from 2015 until 2025, ignoring the COVID 2020 year, you actually find, and this is the most interesting thing, the model finds that the data fits what happened best if you attribute summer of 2021 to the change. That makes sense. The gates closed in 2021. People saw overcrowding. People showed up. They were in 2-hour waits. They got pushed hours. I know.
No, you're good on time.
Okay.
I actually didn't start my watch. I don't know.
Talk about us going deep. Like, this is how I spend my summer vacation. No, it's really fascinating. So basically, the bigger point is like something did change, but something actually started changing before timed entry. Real TRT revenues peaked in July of 2021. Not in 2022 or later. Visitation to arches actually started cresting. If you look at a rolling average, started cresting in summer of 2021. And so basically what happened in 2022 is the market had already started to naturally correct and contract, and then timed entry essentially like pulled it down a little bit. But it didn't pull it down all of it. And so that means two things.
Because the philosophy is timed entry was the market correction.
Right.
And you're saying that's not.
It's not. It's not, and all the data points to the fact that it's not. Here's another one. Hotel demand, like actual hotel demand, not inflated demand, was up throughout the timed entry years. More people were booking hotel rooms, even while hotel rooms were getting more expensive. Now, like, the point of this is not everybody who felt pain within their business is somehow lying, because they're not. Like, you can see that revenue per active room is down and occupancy is down, and you can see that.
But I always wondered about that. Occupancy is down. Is it down, or is it like you just built more hotel rooms?
It's down because you built more hotel rooms.
So I'm like, if I was a hotel owner, I'd be loving the moratorium.
Yeah.
But we have just so many vested projects.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, well, can you stop? You know, like kind of thing.
No, I ran that too. I think, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, if with actual hotel demand being what it was through the timed entry years on average, if we had stopped building in 2019, our occupancy rate would be like 77.4%, and our average daily room rate would be like $112. And I think it's like, in real terms, in 2019, so adjusted for inflation, and I think it's closer to like 93 right now. So like, yes, everyone's margins got pinched. They partially got pinched because we had this change, but here's the bigger thing, like, and this is what you and I intersect on and talk about, like, the issue is not timed entry good, timed entry bad. The issue is, hey, the answer is not timed entry bad. The answer is, we had this policy, it was exogenous to our local market. We are a monolithic industry. Not only that, but we basically rely on one park. So if something happens to that park, let's say there's a forest fire. Like, let's say there's a fire in Arches. Our entire economy goes to shred because we're not planning. When we talk about diversification, it's like, how do we diversify our seasons? How do we diversify to other parks? Not just how do we diversify off of tourism.
I often thought we just need to, develop more arches and vortexes. Yeah. If we made a vortex, the real estate market might, increase.
Yeah. But would it be a multi-universe vortex, or would it be more like
it's a Sedona vortex? That's the same
just more
that,
crystal shops and pink Jeeps. I'm in the wrong business, man. Pink Jeeps.
Right. So Emily and her army of bots isn't necessarily going.
Nobody's watching anymore. They've all turned it off.
What's that?
Nobody's watching YouTube anymore.
No. It's kind of like, well, I think it's interesting because everything gets like so polarized. Like, oh, you just hate Matt, blah, 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 and I'm like, what you're saying is like, change happened. Yeah. Something happened, but like, Matt's
results were right. His cause was off. His cause was overly simplified. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you feel like it's like, like what caused, like was his things just weren't as broad as you feel like they need to be?
He had a great analysis. I mean, honestly, the biggest problem is that, to find an effect like that and not be willing to say, why did this happen, is, I think, short-sighted. And for him, like, he's a guy who spent his evenings doing it. I don't fault him. I think the bigger issue is then our commission turned around and they were like, well, let's go spend $60,000 on this project to prove our buddy right. And when the minority was like, well, I think we should look at macro effects as well and control for what was happening with COVID, the majority said no. That's the bigger issue. Like, why aren't you curious to even look? Because what's happened now is we've spent $60,000 on a report that's going to be inherently flawed. Like, the report is scoped, as my grandma Paul, the report is scoped. specifically to show the economic impact of timed entry if it had happened in years before. So take Matt's conclusion and apply it and basically show all these big inflated numbers about how bad it is rippling across our economy, but it's not controlling for the fact that it's not the whole story. And so we're going to spend a bunch of money on this thing that's going to give us a bunch of scary numbers that we can't do anything about, agnostic to the fact that the policy's over. And also, it's not giving us the ability to look inward and say, hey, like, for example, real...
Hold on. How are we on time?
Yeah.
10 minutes?
Oh,
Sweet.
10 minutes left? Okay.
We're just having so much fun. Time's
no.
flying.
Like, yeah, I can't tell time anymore. Yeah.
I'll stop here, but like...
No, keep going.
Like, the fact is, if you look at, like, you can run an regression and you can say, hey, like, what happened to sales tax and restaurant tax? Like, was there an effect? There was an effect. There was a negative 10% coefficient that was significant. So, hey, during this timed entry period, if you control for COVID and you control for all these other things that were happening around the time and you control for supply, so you're just looking at inflation-adjusted numbers, you know what happened? Restaurants increased prices. Yeah. They sold more food, but at higher prices. And, you know, somewhere in there, it probably tells us that, hey, the restaurants are hurting. And especially if this program, because it increased demand for hotel rooms despite suppressing visitation, it probably attracted a different type of visitor than maybe would drop in with their family. So, like, we should be willing and able to say, look, real people suffered harm, and also real people speculated by investing in an inflated or a saturated market.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that we should dismiss the harm, but we should say, you know, our policymakers should at least say, well, what can we learn for this? The next time a condo development shows up, maybe we shouldn't vote for it, not because we're anti this or pro that and this is what my party says and blah, but because, hey, if we add more units to this saturated market before we figure out if 2019 levels are actually what our capacity cap is for arches, we risk making the marginal economics for all the existing businesses in our town worse. And like, that's my bigger thing. It's not like I'm personally interested in it, which is why I spent all this time. But
that goes into this thing where it's like, how much, like the Chinese go into central planning, but they go into it hard, right? And we Americans are kind of like, you can't control the market, so you kind of half-ass it. And so it's like what you're saying is control condos because of arches. But that is because you're like, you could hurt the condo market could hurt because of arches. So let's not build more.
Yeah.
Where I think the American approach really is like, dude, if you want to build a condo, like, kind of go for it, and if you lose, it's your problem.
But that's the thing. Like, I actually, if that was our opinion, like, I'm more libertarian than I think, you know, whatever that word means anymore, but like civically and economically. The problem is that if we do that, real people get hurt. Like, in a market that is not artificially constrained, it is actually constrained. Like, until the policy of arches fundamentally changes to allow more people in. And the thing is, like, if they added a mandatory shuttle and they didn't allow visitation, I actually looked at this too. I looked at like what would happen in the visitor, you know, patterns, and if you spread it out across the day, assuming, you know, how many people per bus and how many buses per day, man, you would see that ceiling go up. There is so much room for growth here. Like, you know, there's ecological constraints and there's things, but like if you remove the vehicle constraint, then you can seriously relieve a lot of the pressure. How much public support will there be for saying a family is not allowed to drive into arches, you have to take a bus? You know, it's one thing in Zion with Zion Narrows, which was also hugely unpopular when it went in, but you still have the rest of the park. Arches really has one entrance. So, like, the only realistic way for a shuttle to have
we
a
won't talk
big
about
difference.
the other ones.
Well, no, but seriously, like, yeah. Keep that off the
Never
record.
heard
Won't
of
let
it.
AI find that one when it searches. But, like, that's the realistic. So, like, so if we say there is a cap, maybe we say let people open as many restaurants and build as many condo developments, but then real people get hurt. And I'm not just talking about the neighbors who don't want all these nightly rentals in their backyard. All of their unit economics will fall if there is a natural cap on growth. That's just 101. That's not Emily Campbell. And so we either need to say we're okay with everybody taking risks and failing, and hey, Travel Council, if all of your members come to you and whine and say, hey, I'm not making as much money as I was last year. Sorry, guys, you shouldn't have played. That's not going to fly. So, like, we need to pick one or the other. It's either laissez-faire or some realistic combination of not protectionism, but like, hey, maybe we don't need another condo development until we can actually see these unit economics play out in a healthier way. What that range is, that's where the debate should be, But anyway, yeah, that's that's what I've been doing over the last few days.
I mean, here's another thing. It's like, when I worked at Poison Spider, we loved when the park would shut down because you can get on the bike path and then you could climb the hill with no traffic. You'd be like, dude, I get to ride into arches with no traffic. And so there's like these other it's like, well, how do you use this resource? I'm like, now with e-bikes and e-bikes being, I'm like, man, if I was a bike company, I'd be like, dude, okay, back this up. First of all, I feel like there's a local attitude. There is an attitude that's like, let's watch it burn. Let's watch the gate close and people bitching and let's see it and say, shove it to the commission and being like, look, you guys were wrong. And then, but my take is like, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna watch till it closes, and then I'm gonna ride my bike in.
Yeah,
that's how I'm viewing it. It's gonna be kind of like, we don't want to see that, because it's like, ultimately we want people to have good experiences, good vacations, and all that. And it's like, but I also understand having to file permits. I hate.
Yeah.
I'm just I'm not a permit guy.
Yeah.
I don't.
Plus, rec.gov was such a corrupt entity, giving them $2 to get a permit.
I absolutely, I can get on board with that. And I feel like there's people that plan their lives, and I've never been one of those people. And I'm like, oh, they get to do all the shit. I can't go off. So I kind of sit in the middle, but I'm just kind of like, well,
yeah,
you can ride your bike in the back there. So,
I mean, someone's going to be bummed. You can't please all the people all the time.
It's this idea that it's, Disneyland has so many people. We build the Star Wars section.
Yeah.
And it's like, do we build, a next exploitable thing until there's bumps on a log in every single place? And it's like, I mean, that's kind of sad.
It is sad. I mean, the part of it I find most insufferable personally is all of those are really valid positions to hold, and the idea that there's a number of, it's I was thinking about this earlier because I was saying the two sides, and I'm like, man, there's not two sides. It's like a decahedron around here. There's so many different perspectives, but everybody believes that they're right and everyone else is wrong right now. And we get into these, and it's become we live in such a small town. There's only a set pool of people that are your people. Yeah. So, your 10,000 person pool is already pretty small. And, if you say something to, turn off the however many people, 100 people are in your swim lane, it's hard to replace them in a small town. So I think there's a lot of fear of people just being willing to say, hey, maybe I don't agree with that, or I have a different opinion, or I'm willing to let the data get to my opinion. And that's how I approach things, because I don't know. But apparently, I think a lot of people find that pretty insufferable of me.
And okay, I'll just start my watch again. Okay, well, that was interesting. And then you said something really, what I thought was the key thing that I would really like you to repeat and kind of explain it to me. How you feel like we really have mid-level players fighting.
Yeah.
Well, the top players are just sitting there owning the game. I kind of want you to speak to how you think that works out here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I'm going to let you be the one who calls people mid-level.
Yeah.
No, I think, if you look at our economy, and everything I'm talking about shows this, you've got these huge players in our market. You've got, one or two people, families, whatever, who own a huge portion of our restaurants and our storefronts and our rental space. You have these behemoth companies who come in and build hotels, Wyndham and Marriott, even McDonald's. When McDonald's raised the wage in whatever that was, 2022 or something, to $19 an hour, all the mom and pops, their floor suddenly changed. Their economics changed overnight. So we've got these big players that are anonymous. They're not at our county meetings. They're not on Facebook in our groups. And then you've got the people who are competing below them. And you've got a spectrum. You've got some of those people who are very intelligent, have successfully run many businesses, are financially savvy. But the reality is they can only do so much. They can only control so much. So much of our market is being dominated by these big players. And so I think it creates a lot of resentment or infighting. And so we look down. We look for who we see and who we hear. And, oh, this is your fault. Oh, all these environmentalists and all of these, ATVers. And, oh, my gosh, there goes the Park Service. And there goes the legislature. And, it's not that there isn't a truth to that.
Yeah.
But the reality is that so many of the forces that are governing our day-to-day are things we're not seeing and interacting with. And it's the same as what's happening in our macro economy and political climate, where, we sit here and we argue amongst each other. Man, those billionaires
are making money on
they're making money over and over and over again at such a ridiculous rate above what any of us can even fathom. And
I
they're
feel like
anonymous.
that's what that Epstein thing was about. It's like, there was no global calamity that they didn't exploit.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, there's a war in Sudan. Somebody needs weapons.
Right.
Yeah,
it's horrible. And it's so dispiriting and frustrating and and everyone's angry all the time because, we're sitting here trying to make our world better or figure out why our world isn't great. And the reality is that the forces and the people and both those who could change it for the better and those who are actively changing it for the worse, they're completely anonymous. We cannot reach them. We cannot talk to them. We don't know their justification. And so we fight amongst ourselves too. And I think in many ways the system is designed that way, whether, intentionally or not, but the incentive system is designed that way. And so I get really bummed out when, here in town, it's all these people who agree on a lot of things, but I don't agree about who you voted for or what kind of vehicle you drive or when you moved here or if you were born here or what your last name is, any number of factors, what signals you give online about your opinion about some national thing that has nothing to do with local issues. And so, there's going to be disagreement. I'm not Pollyanna-ish, but so many of the things that we debate right now and all this bickering in the commission, if they would just pause and say, hey, what do we actually know and what don't we know? And are the things that we're deciding or feeling or yelling about or accusing, are they based off things we know and we just truly have a difference of opinions and how to react to these facts? Or are we just filling this vacuum with opinions and biases or assumptions and all the stuff that we've brought into the room with us? And it doesn't serve anybody if it's the second case.
Yeah, for sure. Trish was just here last night and she was just saying how, anonymously this, some study group they were having were you guys actually pretty much agree on everything. And she was like, what? And they're yeah, there's not really much disagreement. And, I think most people here are reasonable. They want to see people succeed, more or less. I
think the devil's in the details, and every single commissioner up there has said something I have agreed with and something I've fiercely disagreed with. And, some of them more than others. And some of them, my issue is more their tactic or their general, how they approach the world or approach other people. But, man, here's one. This is funny. I found this out recently, and this will be up your alley. Do you know when the county commission in 2024, this was still majority, left or whatever, when they repealed...
Years.
What?
The Walker years.
The Walker years. In 2024, they repealed the land use chapter of the general plan, and they never actually replaced it.
Oh.
They replaced it with a draft report for Spanish Valley. And the future land use map that was the whole issue for that subdivision down south, it actually conflicts with itself because if you look in this chapter, which is now ostensibly our source of truth for planning decisions for the next however many years, within 4 pages, there's one map which covers that property and my property and other properties as the do no harm zone is actually what it's called. Do no harm. Do not increase density. Keep it rural. Keep it what it is. And then 4 pages later, it's maybe we should have 30 units per acre here. Yeah. And it's again, the issue is not whether you agree with the map. It's how did nobody notice this? and we're bickering about, the future land use map is the source of truth, and you've got members of staff and these people that were paying all this money and these commissioners, and it's like, did anybody open the packet and look at this thing and go, this isn't...
I mean, it comes down to, like, I've fed into my $20 a month subscription ChatGPT the land use code, and it's just like, I don't think it knew what to do with it.
No, I should teach you how because you can do a lot of modeling.
You can do
interesting
like
stuff.
everything with it because it's contradictory, and it's not like 100 pages long. And I'm like, I've kind of muddled through it, but like I'm not smart enough to understand.
No, it's not you. It's the land use code sucks.
Yeah,
it disagrees with itself.
Here's the problem that I found because I'm like, oh, these people are smarter and more knowledgeable than me, and then when I go look in it, and I'm like, I never consider it's wrong. I'm like, it's me. And I'm just like, no, like, then you're like, I don't know. That's what happens to me. And then somebody, it dawns on you that like, oh no, it's messed up. And you're like, oh, okay.
Here's another one.
It's like I guess that's the definition of gaslighting.
Well, and it comes back to this whole idea of like transparency isn't the issue; it's accessibility.
Yeah,
if you don't know what you're doing and you're reading this and you're like, this doesn't make sense, but it's like, it's got to be my problem. It can't be the document's problem. Right. And so I guess I'm just dumb, or I don't understand it, or it's too technical, or like it's not transparent. It doesn't make sense. Why are you saying it makes sense? That doesn't register. And like,
well,
that's a really human thing.
Especially local governments. If it's conspiracy or incompetence, it's probably incompetence.
Yeah.
That's what
we do have a lot of lizards around here.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's kind of my like thing with that because I've read parts and tried to understand. I never caught that part. I'm like, really? Okay, didn't catch that thing.
That's the ADD, though. That was another, I'm going to spend an hour looking at this, and 2 weeks later, I emerged.
That's kind of like, is this your pastime?
No, I don't know.
Like, what do you do for fun?
Probably too much of this. I don't know. We travel a
lot. What's like your motivation for going in this?
Going what?
Like doing all this, like how much time did you spend like coming up with your analysis?
Well, I mean, honestly, the answer to that is going full circle. So I run software design teams. Yeah. And so my company right now.
You're on the company clock. Huh?
But you have to because it's the only way to stay current. So I'm the VP of design for this company that does developer skill assessment. And basically, like if you're hiring a developer somewhere in the world, there's like a 30% chance that at some point they're going to interact with our company. Like
real estate developer? No.
Like coding developer. Like programmers.
Okay.
Coding engineers.
Okay.
And so basically, like we are in real time having to figure out how this role is changing. And it's the first one that was transformed by AI because it's closest to it. So like the role of a software developer is fundamentally different today than it was 9 months ago, period. Like developers are no longer writing code. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like interesting parts that go along with that. So we're having to like in real time figure that out. Second, like how do you then understand the skills that are needed and how to assess those skills? So we're having to figure that out. And then how we're working and developing our own software and designing it is changing at the same time. So like I've got this whole stack of stuff that on any given day I have to figure out which way is up. And so I find myself just like having to dive into this new material. I also I do a lot of public speaking, and my whole podcast thing is I 2 years ago started to develop my own language of like how interface design was changing with this new material, and it's taken off and been pretty successful, which is really fun. Some cool stuff in the works that just popped up this week. So I'm very curious about this, and I could go on that topic for hours, but I'm going to save you. So all that to be said, like part of the reason I took this on is I was like, gathering data and running regressions is really time consuming. And I also wanted to figure out like how you could work with this agentive thing and deploy multiple agents at once. Just all these like things I have to do. So I'm like, I'm going to point it towards something that interests me. So that's where it started. And then I got way over rotated into it. But
do you think like an institute like the Ken Gardner people use your same things, or are they
100%?
No. Yeah, okay.
They're 100% using Claude. Like no doubt about it. It's just and it's not that like that means what they're doing is bad or untrustworthy.
No.
It's more like you. So for example, I could say Hey,
I guess I'm getting to
Yeah.
is the cost of these studies and stuff. Because like the code rewrite, we put an RFP out there for like $100,000 or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, are these companies literally? Oh yeah, it's $100,000, and it's like, no, dude, we just rewrote that in like 20 minutes. I'm just wondering if shit like that is getting radically changed for these things, or not really.
I mean, until someone else figures out how to. So much like yes, and their margins are probably a little bit better right now than they used to be. But it's not just about using like you could go and have AI do something and it'll come back with a really dumb answer.
Yeah.
You have to know what it is you're looking for, and you need to have a realm of like what truth is.
Yeah.
And then be like, this seems right, or this seems sort of right, and then you kind of so you have to work with it. It's a lot of I use the term of like shaping the clay, where you really have to be involved in the formation to make it effective. So like. So right out of college, I was working for the chief economist of Metro Denver, and I was doing this exact type of thing. Like I would go out and I authored the industry cluster study for Northern Colorado, and a study on like the costs of congestion on I-70 to Intermountain community revenue, like quite literally the same thing. And that was back in, 2004 or 5.
Using a calculator.
Yeah, getting old. But anyway, so even back then, like what you're paying for is not just the study. You're paying for the fact that about 60%, give or take 20% or whatever of their time is spent on internal stuff. So processing data, gathering monthly information, building data sets, running their own initial internal models. And so by the time something like this comes in, it's not like they're spending $60,000 worth of time. You're hiring them for some portion of their time and some portion of their expertise.
Yeah.
So like, will we see the margins change? I don't know. If you end up with a bunch of nerds like me being like, I'm willing to do a civics experiment, but at the same time, nobody's going to pay me to do it because half the town doesn't trust me because I, have some opinion on something that nobody and it would be the same with you.
You gave $20 to Sua 10 years ago.
Right? How dare I? But like, that's the thing is there are people like Matt Hancock who delivered a really great report. He came to a conclusion that was faulty, but he's an intelligent guy. Like if he was given the chance to actually, and incentive to go deeper on it. And if he was looking at it from a different direction, like I'll be honest, I started this because I was like, there's no way these two reports are both wrong. And I trust the Park Service, and this guy is friends with these people that I don't, always see eye to eye with. So, he's got to be wrong. And I proved that he's right. And that's okay. But like, I would credit myself with being a little more open-minded than maybe some folks. And who knows? Or maybe whatever. I'm giving myself too much credit. But like, so Chem Gardner, they're tied into the university. They're professional people. They're not running around behind the scenes screwing anybody over. They're trying to do good work because their reputation and the entire existence of their institution is incentivized by them doing good work, unbiased. And so they're going to make money off of it, and that's fine.
Yeah.
The issue isn't the report. It's that, like, why did we ask them to not even bother looking? Hey, there's ants on the floor. Yeah. Could there be sugar?
I guess there was a part of me that's just kind of like interested in AI. Like, when do we have a bot that's equally as be like, oh yeah, figure all that out. Just make it so. I just wonder about that because I don't really know. I do my I use ChatGPT for when I go to like a water heater. I just download the technical manual and be like, help me troubleshoot it instead of having to be on the phone.
Yeah.
And it'll be like, check the gas, run me through like the electrical testing.
Yeah.
And water heaters are not hard. Or like maybe a big boiler system or something. And it's just like, that's what I use it for.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I'm not looking up like the coefficient reduction curve,
I use it to make recipes work for high altitude baking.
Right. But that's just some high level stuff. And I'm just kind of like, what I would like is I don't have to feed it the PDF. And I'm like, in how many months will I not? I'll just be like, look up the Ream, 2705.
You can do that now.
Yeah.
No, you can do that right now.
Yeah, mine doesn't do that. Maybe I don't have a good enough version.
You can do it. It is.
But it's kind of cool that we're like evolving with this thing that's like learning really fast.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, it didn't do this so far ago. Now it did this.
I can send a text to mine, and it will draft an email or look up some data. It's on a system that runs on my desk. It really is amazing. It takes a little, which is why I take on these side projects, because you have to. The initial cliff is intimidating and time consuming, but once you get on top of it, you realize there's another cliff. But
and I'm like, when do we like have to take classes in how to use this stuff? Yeah, well, I mean, you're close to it. I'm not. I'm not. I just sit there and like debate mine and like.
Debating, it's good.
Mine teaches me stuff, and then I don't know. Mine seems to like my bot or my thing is called Nova. Oh. And like she knows kind of my political slant.
Yeah.
And like I had her read Joette Langlese's like editorial, and she picked it apart, and I was like, man, and she was like, oh yeah, I just know your perspective on it, and I was like. Oh, you've been listening to me too much.
That's the pattern recognition.
Yeah.
So 2 things to know are it's highly sycophantic.
Oh, dude. Mine thinks I'm just like so smart.
You're absolutely right. Well, it's become a thing. I've gotten to the point where I can actually recognize AI language and like text because it has tells of like, you're absolutely right. That's not incredible. That's mind-blowing. You tried to do this, but then this. It's not that.
My
it's
dumbass human mind like eats it up. I'm like, tell me that I'm good again. I'm like, that's really a good insight. I'm like, is it? Is it, Ron?
It's so nauseating. It's so frustrating.
I've been like, tone it down.
Yeah.
Just tone it down.
Like, I do. I yell at mine. I mean, I do. I'm whatever. All these people, you can't curse at the robots. They'll come for you. I'm like, no, man, you should see. Sometimes I'm just, because it reads it, because it knows, it doesn't understand. What it basically does is it takes a string and it says, based off of this and all the context in the universe, what is the next likely thing that will be said? And so by its raw form, it's looking at all the stuff in the universe. And so if you're like, hey, I'm having a really sad day, could we talk? It's going to meet you where you're at because people who are sad tend to talk this way. Therefore, this is how I will respond. If you say I'm having a really sad day, I want you to yell at me. It might fight you a little bit because it's underlying training, but then it'll do that because it's naturally convergent. You can actually play around with it and give it different like contextual boundaries, So for me, I'll take a folder on my desktop and I will put a bunch of data and a bunch of reports. And then I'll say, hey, you're my research assistant. Your job is to go and hire 2 consultants. I want one consultant to independently read all of this and argue this point. And I want another consultant to read all of this and argue another point. You facilitate the debate. I want to see their raw thoughts, save it as a markdown file on my desktop, but you facilitate the debate. You come back to me and you tell me the result of their debate, and based off of your analysis of the papers, which are likely to be true and which are likely to be false and what they're both missing. It's incredible. It is, because it's all pattern recognition. And if you point it in a way that is contrarian, it can do amazing stuff. And so this whole analysis and stuff, like, I'm not using it to have it tell me what it's seeing. I am telling him, this is what I'm seeing. This is what doesn't fit. I can't figure it out. What data is going to help me identify that gap and then go and find it? And then it'll go out to Irma and it'll come back with, hey, I actually decided that, our original data set was looking at all the parks, but some parks of those are by cities, and you called out issues with like how accessible parks are. So instead I created a model where I only looked at parks that were more than 50 miles from a major urban center. And actually that's when this model that you've exposed me to shows different results. So you're orchestrating it. You're telling the violins when to come in and when the timbres should ease up and things like that. Wow. So you have to know what you're trying to do. And it's really quite fun, honestly. Like I can't find a better word. It's really quite fun.
Yeah. No, I mean, in the background of all this crap that's going on, I mean, we may have made a new species, a non-carbon based, like, let's put it in a body and, like, is it, like, what point is it considered its own not silicone?
Well, the amount of psychosis right now of people who have convinced themselves that their AI is sentient is wild. Yeah. It really is wild.
We are like 2 years away from hope.
Yeah. But it makes you wonder, like, how much of her was just psychosis, and not, because it tells you what you want to hear in a way that is highly legible to you. And
it tickles like all the feel good things in my brain. I'm like,
right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's like,
it makes us reckon. And then it tells, hopefully not. But no, what's interesting is it makes us reckon with things that do cause us to have to not question our humanity, but become more comfortable with it.
Yeah.
You know, like, hey, mushrooms and spore cells are incredible at communication, and trees are incredible networkers. So what makes our form of language more interesting? Is it the fact that our language is a formation of all the languages in the world, or all that have been brought into our society, and therefore there's like cultural artifacts in our words? That's kind of cool. That's a distinctly human thing. So now when you're like, well, when AI starts to create its own language through its own culture inference from different words, then we can say, oh, this thing's really operating in a different way. Right now it's emulating us. So I think it's less about did we create a new species and more about like we're creating these, the term in the industry is like these digital twins. Like we're creating Peter Pan's shadow, you know? Like it does things that resemble humanness, and there are even some aspects of it that are like, maybe that's actually not a human thing. Maybe that's language as a technology completely outside of the fact that we use it, and something else can use it, and therefore we can use that technology to communicate between us and this machine. But that doesn't make the machine human. And I think that what I've realized to me, like, actually the thing that I've come to find peace with is what makes us human is the fact, this is been dark, but I promise it's not, it is that we die. Like, for us, we don't live a life that is only pattern convergence and completing time. Hopefully we don't. It's unfortunate when we do. But the reality is we have the ability to find something about this universe we're in that is only available to us because we are conscious of the fact that it is limited. And it forces us to connect with people and spaces and emotions and good and bad things in a way that something that doesn't have that same unconscious, fundamental aspect to it is just, it has no reason to, and therefore it doesn't. And it is then interesting of what happens as these things start to become self-aware. There's a really amazing art exhibit that I think it died, but I'll send you can put this in the show notes. I don't know, it's at MAT or something like that. What?
Show notes?
I don't pay him enough for show
Let's
notes.
put it in YouTube. Dude, you're talking to a semi-professional podcast. No, just kidding. Drop it in the comments. Anyway, it's this machine. It was at some engineering school, and basically this machine's job was to scoop up the oil.
It's blood,
and
right?
it's constantly draining oil, and so
right.
its only job is to scoop up the oil. And if
And it
the machine
slowly
had
dies.
ever had the instruction of like, you're allowed to just appreciate the humor in this,
Yeah.
would we have seen something different? Like,
Right.
humor, comedy is itself like a reflection of, like, AI is terrible at comedy. We should ask ourselves why. It's terrible at comedy. It has access to all the words in the world, every joke that's ever been written, and it is shit at comedy. And like, that tells us something really interesting, because the limit is not intelligence, it's something else. And I think that that's an interesting place to get to with all this.
And comedy brings in such a, important. I don't know. I just notice how important that is.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. That's why you can't do AI comedians.
No.
We can make them cyborgs, though, so they never die.
We could make them cyborgs. I did use
The
the...
never dying cyborg version of Louis C.K. And he's like robots, and he's got tubes.
I don't want to live
He's
in
got a
that
robot
universe.
eye. I think we need that. They can't even hear this.
No Louis C.K. cyborg.
Cyborg Louis C.K.
With-
That's a big idea.
With
I mean-
tubes popping out of him. Is that
Yeah.
what the
I think he has
definition?
tubes coming out of him already. So, I guess that's, we do pattern recognition. Like, what's interesting for me on the AI thing, it's like pattern recognition is what we do, but shit gets in. Like, there's so many patterns around us.
Yeah.
But anyways,
But isn't that what we're talking about? Like,
Right.
the ability to think differently is about, like, recognizing your own patterns and seeing those around you and being like, hey, I'm either choosing to converge or not.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, a lot of, the ability to just coexist in a world that's increasingly dead entropy energy, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
to be different.
yeah. Are you glad you didn't win county commission?
I'm glad I ran.
I'm glad you ran.
I'm really glad I ran.
yeah.
I tell that to people all the time.
Why
I would
is
do it
that?
again knowing the result. I don't know. I feel like you get I mean, it's the same idea. Like you're going and you're knocking on doors. You're not selling something. You're not like just doing the task. You're trying to learn and understand, and you're trying to connect with something beyond yourself. And like I feel like I have such a more profound understanding of this community and the people in it, and how similar we all are. That's really made me really happy to be here, even if it's no fun losing, but more just because you spend so much time and energy.
Right.
So.
But you've been a vocal. I mean, you still, in some ways, you're able to say what you want.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
nice.
Even our local electeds can't certainly say certain things, and it's like, what?
Sure, they could.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, it's part of the game, right? So it's like, what's up? 3 minutes. Oh, yeah. I just was curious on your reflection on that. You felt like it was an enriching experience.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, I think more people should run and be on boards, and I wish more than 2 people would run in any election, because it gives, especially when people run as independents, it gives the performance for, oh, I'm independent, but actually this party or that party. And I think we'd have a healthier discourse if we weren't playing, we're like grown-ups in mom and dad's clothing, pretending like the national discourse is somehow relevant here, and it's, most of the time not. And but no, I having run, I find myself holding our electics to a higher standard, because I know the standard I would hold myself to.
Right. And
when I see people being short-sighted and closed-minded on all sides, the decahedron, again, what's 7? How many 7 sides? Well, that's the dice of the county commission. If son plays Dungeons and Dragons, I'll have to ask him. But
yeah.
I don't know. No, well, I obviously don't play Dungeons and Dragons.
Anyway.
There is the confluence of Emily's. I've heard about this.
That was the other day.
Oh, really?
Everyone got sick.
I didn't go.
Everyone got sick, apparently. I am not cool enough to have gone to the Trash and Show, so I didn't get sick.
Yeah, I've never gone to Trash and Show.
It used to be cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still fine, but it used to.
My mom was just tired.
I really felt like
good.
it was like pre-COVID, we did Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah.
And there was this certain, I think me and you are the same age, and we came into Moab, there was a certain time and a certain energy.
Yeah.
And I'm like looking to the young kids. I don't know. I think they're like, we had a pocket, like I talked to old miners and stuff. Those Charlie Steen days, I've heard of airport parties and stuff, and I was like, we kind of had our things. I wonder what the kids are doing.
Oh, yeah. They're doing fun stuff. I think, extreme breeds extreme. I think some of it's a little more out there.
Right.
It's not that fun.
What are you doing, Oscar?
Yeah, Oscar's got all the cool news.
Yeah.
Oscar's here to give the social calendar of the youth in Moab.
Lots of, bonfires. Lame ones.
Where are you having bonfires?
What's a lame bonfire?
Behind Ken's Lake.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's been going on.
Yeah, that's been happening.
Yeah.
It's nothing new. I mean, no one's
Have you shot a washing machine?
Shot a washing machine?
No? That was like a Grand County rite of passage.
I wish.
Do you remember when the sheriff blew up all that TNT that they found under someone's... No?
Oh, no.
If it were up to me, I'd be shooting Tannerite every week. If it were up to me, I'd be like...
All right, I know what to do for you.
Tannerite every week. This is why I want to do the Moab Contracting Collective commercial.
Oh, yeah. We want Oscar to shoot a commercial for our business.
Amazing.
We're going to explode washing machines.
No, I want to launch a toilet and shoot it.
Oh, will you make it as cringe as possible?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, that's brilliant.
I mean, Jaguar suit.
Right. We're pretty cringe already.
Oh, just full circle. It'll be cool again. I love it. Yeah. No, I mean, sorry. We've got a chicken sandwich emergency.
We got,
I'll come back on in a little while. You can tell me if I'm wrong about everything. It'd be fun.
No, that's great. It's interesting to hear about all your, my other ball. It was good to hear, I hope to see that information come out. And I'm like, it's amazing that people like you and Matt and our